Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today's a good day because today is a stinger day. Now, before we do get into what this car is, before we do any of that, what we should do is wash it because this car is filthy right now. And I've got 2 cars and coffees to go to tomorrow. Yeah, I've got a hunch that the cars and coffees coming up tomorrow are going to be, well, pretty much bust. We will find out. I will try and get some footage and I'll pop it in afterwards. For now, I'm going to get this car clean. Now, I'm not doing a full clean on this. We're not going to go crazy. We're just going to give this car a quick wash. Get this car clean and then we'll talk about what it is. And there we go. The Stinger now is very clean. It is not perfectionist level clean. We didn't do a snow foam job on it. We've done enough to be able to drive it tomorrow. It's going to get pretty dirty on the way, so the whole thing comes up spectacularly well. After this show, we'll go through and show you all the problems with this car. There's not a lot. For the most part, this car is absolutely brilliant. There is very little wrong with it. It is fully serviced, fully maintained because it's still under warranty. Time for me to pack it up for today. I will see you in the morning when we take this thing off to Cars and Coffee and I'll walk you through what we end up with there. I'll catch up with you in the morning.
And here we are turning up at the first of the Cars and Coffees. And I was both half wrong and half right. And the reason is this: I was wrong in that a lot of people turned out. A huge number of cars. This site can only hold about 100 cars, and we probably had some 200, maybe even 300 cars trying to get in here, and it caused massive problems, which you'll see a bit later on. Where I was right was that the really good modern cars just didn't come out to play, unfortunately. We did get quite a lot of cool stuff, as you can see in much of this footage. There were some really cool cars turn out, but the high-end, big name, big brand cars, well, they just didn't come out to play today. It's a bit of a shame. I would have loved to have seen much more presence from Ferrari and Lamborghini. Aston, I love DB9s, but frankly, there just wasn't much in the way of cool, vibrant, standout cars. A lot of retro classic stuff. Some of it amazing, like you saw with that 911 and these TVRs. They're fantastic. But for me, who's a fan of more high-end modern cars, yeah, unfortunately, we just didn't see a lot of them out here. This was really a classic show. We did get clubs turn out, like these Porsches here. They came from the Porsche Club, as did the TVRs, and that's always an awesome sight. I do love those cars. I just wish I'd seen a bit more of the high-end supercars and stuff in here. We got a little bit close with this Lotus Mira. Believe it or not, there was 2 of these that turned up nearly identical, completely separate private owners. The only gripes I have about this car is the color. I really think this car deserves a lot more popping, eye-straining color than that. That's a great color, just didn't stand out. As you can see, more classics, an amazing Nissan Z car, and fortunately next to it we had this really bright red 300ZX. My God, does that thing look good. The color just popped. Unfortunately, it was probably the brightest car of the show. Here's one of my favorite cars. This is an Aston Martin V8 Vantage Roadster, obviously the convertible, and it's got a beautiful red interior. That just popped. That made it stand out so well. That with its red brake calipers, just phenomenal. Loved this thing. In front of it, we have one of 2 996 GT3s that turned up. Also amazing cars, but just deserve more color than that really almost hidden silver.
Here's the second Amira.
As you can see, almost a carbon copy of the other one. Phenomenal car. Again, I just wish it had been bright green, yellow, red, something like that. Really make that car stand out.
This aerial atom stood out no matter the color.
And I've got to hand it to the owners who brought this thing today, because this would have been one of the most uncomfortable cars to drive in to the Cars and Coffee. Trying to get here via motorway links in an open wheel car would just be really awful experience. I can imagine how cold it would be. It was a very cold morning. It was not sunny, it was overcast, it was pretty miserable and even drizzling. So yeah, you would have needed a helmet and you would have been extremely uncomfortable in this thing pretty much no matter where you were.
Nearby we have what looked like an amazing M3.
This was brilliant. This blue was just spectacular. The Drama Edition A90 Supra here, this was also really cool. Loads of carbon all over it, super quick car, really track edition, and of course, we got the Stinger. So the Stinger looking pretty filthy there from the drive here. Here's the other 996 GT3 that I mentioned. Wonderful car, but just again in a color that doesn't really make it stand out. And in front of it was another Aston Martin Vantage. This again is the V8 4.3 litre. This one had a white trim interior over this very cool blue. I think it should have been a bit more vibrant, but nonetheless, it was just amazing. Continuing down the side, because the place has now run out of car spots and people shouldn't be parking here. We've got a rat rod combi van. Really sounded pretty impressive too. You did not expect it. In front of it, we had a TVR Cerberus with a red interior. Just absolutely wild, this thing. Fantastic looking car. In front of that was an Alpine 110, much smaller in life when you see these things, and again just not in that vibrant blue that you expect to see them in. So dull colors are the colors at the moment. Here I am trying to leave and I'm about to run into a big problem. See, what's happened is there's just too many cars for the site. You can see a McLaren 650S pulling in front of it, and behind it is an Aston Martin DB7, and behind him is another Porsche 911, and behind him is a very cool looking Mustang, and behind him was a queue of cars all the way out back to the road. And as you can see, it's a single track, so I can't go forward. At the same time, these cars that you see turning here, they are going to do a lap and end up behind me, and nobody went anywhere. Things only got worse at the next show. So after being held up for ages trying to get out of the last one, we managed to get over here to our second Cars and Coffee. And well, this has always been a very strong Japanese theme show. Now, this show is usually huge. There's a lot of cars there, but with today's really cold weather, also drizzling quite a bit, and just the start of the season, people obviously just weren't prepared to take their cars out today. So whilst we got some good stuff turn out, as you can see here, there just wasn't any volume of cars. This car park is actually a lot bigger than the last car show we were at, and they fill it out. Unfortunately today it was sort of only a quarter full. We had maybe 40 cars and that was about it. You can see here what I thought was the best of the show. This was the Nissan GTR. You've seen them before, but these things are just absolutely awesome cars. We had a GR86 turn up along with a ton of other cars. A lot of really cool Japanese stuff here, but the days of the wild and crazy Japanese cars are starting to dry up. I really didn't see here any of those cars that I used to look at and think, oh my god, that's nuts.
And here it is. This is my 2018 Kia Stinger. Now, I'm not about to give you a full review of this car because there's hundreds of Kia Stinger videos which are reviews online. Now, I hate to have to break a little sad truth to you, but, well, a lot of them are, how do I put this politely, biased. So, my intention here is to go through the specification of this very car and cover, obviously, the general nuance of what it is, and do it unbiased so that you get a fair representation of this very specific car and the problems it's got, because it has two problems right now, technically a third, but we'll get into that. This is the GTS version. In the United Kingdom, the GTS version is the top of the range model. This is a twin turbo 3.3 litre V6. It's a fantastic engine, and I will talk about that more later on when we go under the bonnet. Another really cool feature of this car is that it has Brembo brakes all around, calipers, discs, the lot. The headlights on this car are also amazing. These are completely self-leveling and self-adjusting lights. They will actually move to the side and up and down without any input from the driver to make sure they always stay on the road. They also have completely autonomous, so you don't need to touch these things. They just do everything and anything you ever need them to do. There is one little catch, and the catch is simple. The automatic function for the headlights, it doesn't come on when you start the car. You have to manually turn it on every time. This car also has completely smart cruise ability. So what I mean is this is cruise control on steroids. This car has a front mounted radar and it has fully autonomous cruising capability with steering assist. So this car will not only keep you at distance and speed within traffic jams, bringing you to a stop and accelerating, it'll also keep you in the lane. Effectively, you don't need to drive this thing in traffic. What's the catch with the smart system again? Well, once again, it's not interconnected to the speed limit detection system. But we'll talk about the stupidity of that later on. To support the big Brembo brakes up front, we've got these very cool air dams, and they're functional, they're real. They really do channel ducted air straight to the brakes. Stripes on the front, well, they're my little touch. I just feel that a big slab of white car unfortunately needs to be broken up a little bit. So it's the reason why I put these on. And yes, some of that was left over from the Supra. Now, the vents on top are unfortunately fake. They do nothing. This car also has a 360 camera on it, and it's amazing, it's brilliant. This is the front camera here. There's another camera under each mirror. The final camera is here at the rear. Whilst most of the UK's automotive legislation is world-class and world-leading, one area they are behind in is the fact that I've got to have a front number plate on this car. It's horrific. It is what it is, and we're stuck with it right there. This car came with a huge panoramic roof, and it almost covers the entire thing. Unfortunately, Kia felt it unnecessary to do the back part, but yeah, we'll talk about that later on. For now, this is a panoramic roof. It opens all the way back, and it looks amazing. Kia went with a kind of shadow chrome effect on much of its components, and side mirrors and also this venting down here, they were all done in shadow chrome. This vent down here is real. It is fully functional, and it helps to diffuse some of the air out of the front wheel well. And the GTS stickers, well, they're one of my own touches. I just felt, again, it just needed that little touch up on the front, and these just work brilliantly. On this car, you'll have noticed I am not running the standard Kia badges. Now, it is technically a Kia badge. This badge can be found on certain models in Korea. Well, almost. This is a kind of interpretation, but the symbol is exactly spot on. This is what you find on top-end Korean models, and frankly, I think it looks a lot better than the standard Kia badge that we got. The standard Kia badge was hideous, so we replaced them and put these on, which are also a throwback to some very old models. Now, I didn't just stop on the badges on the outside, so we've got badges on the front and rear of the car and all the wheels, but we also put the little badge in here because, well, it just needed that touch. We wanted to get rid of all those horrible Kia badges. Here at the back of the car, we have another fake vent. It is very cool looking, and unfortunately, I can see no way to make it actually effective. So it is purely cosmetic, but it looks cool. Here at the back of the car, I added a carbon effect boot spoiler. It just looks really, really cool. I'm very happy with it on the car. And it was just one of the little things we did to this car. One of the cool features about this car at the back is that, unlike so many other cars you see, these exhausts here and here, there's 4 of them, and they're real. Another really interesting thing about the wheels all around this entire car is that, well, they're good, which is kind of unusual. Most manufacturers just make rubbish and then stick them on their cars. These are really good. Now, this car has an unusual color combination, very, very rare actually for a Kia Stinger in the United Kingdom. That is, we've got the red leather in the car. Now, this leather, it's also Nappa leather. And being Nappa leather, this stuff, it wears really, really well and just looks amazing all the time. One thing lacking in all modern cars is the information and communication system. Now, the factory stuff from Kia is very good. It is as good as you get in pretty much any other car. You've got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto from factory. No extra costs, not options. They just came with the car. In my case, unfortunately, that's just not been good enough. No car for me presents anywhere near good enough ICT system. So what I decided to do was, well, plug in my own. And up here, well, we have an additional Android box that also serves as a forward-facing dash cam. So we've got an integrated dash cam into this system, which gives us a full Android head unit. So there's no limitations like you get with Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. As a result of adding in that Android box, we have freed up our wireless charging system. This comes with the car from factory. Unfortunately, it's not quite big enough for modern phones, so I've had to take out the rubber matting in there to get my phone to fit. At the same time, in the standard 2018 model, you didn't have wireless Android Auto, so you had to plug it in. This, with this system, now means I can use wireless charging, have my phone connected to a full Android head unit. It is miles better. Sort of. And here we are under the hood or bonnet, and this is our 3.3 litre twin turbo V6. I have barely done any modifications under here. There are some potential plans for it. The only thing I've really done under here is to wrap these struts, which are factory. They look amazing, they look brilliant. You would not know they're not real carbon fiber, but they're not, they're fake. They are aluminium, the factory's aluminium, and that's exactly what they are. You can get a mountain of replacement parts to go under here. I have done very little. This is essentially, as you see it, from factory. The gearbox in this car is actually very, very good. Now, it's not a manual. It never came in a manual option, but it is an 8-speed automatic. It is very, very similar. And when I say very, I mean extremely similar to the 8-speed automatics that you find in many supercars, because they all tend to use that ZF gearbox. And this is not that, but you know, it's exceedingly close to it. If you investigate into this gearbox, you start to realize there's some extraordinary similarities between it and the best of those 8-speed automatic ZFs. These front seats are both heated and ventilated. It even has adjusting sides in the driver's seat. So when you put it in a sport mode, these things automatically move in to hug you. The driver's seat has an easy entry and exit system, and there's 3 settings in it. When you want to get in and out of the car, it will automatically move the seat back and away depending on your size so that it's easier to get in and out, and then reset back to where it should be for driving. It's just brilliant. The climate control system on this car is outstanding. It's as good as you could possibly want it to be. Why? Because you never ever need to touch it. You literally just set the temperature and you never use it. I don't ever touch the climate control. It does all the demisting for me. It does all the climate. And we've got zones in here, including in the rear, where they have their own hot and cold temperatures, but you never, ever need to touch the system in here. It just works brilliantly. We've also got heated rear seats in the back. All the seats in this thing, and I mean all of them, the front seat, the passenger seat, they're all electric. Everything about it, the steering wheel, there's no manual adjusters on any part of it. The side mirrors on these things, well, they look like they're absolutely meaningless. They're just side mirrors, but they're pretty advanced. We've got a 360 camera underneath. We've got, obviously, we have the integrated indicator, and we have a dimming function, automatic, along with auto rotation and blind spot control in the mirror. Again, all sorts of cool stuff, but you never ever think about it. It's just there and you don't need to do anything. It's absolutely fantastic. The boot or trunk space in this car is something amazing. There is so much space in this car. It's not funny. In fact, it's almost unbelievable. As I mentioned, it's all electric. So I can click a button there, I can use the button inside, or I can use the key fob, or just wait and it will open for me automatically. The tailgate opens to a massive degree, and when you're first in, you're greeted by this parcel shelf. Now this has got a bit of a trick to it. You see, you can unhook the parcel shelf over on both sides and it turns into a shelf, and it's also supported on both sides here. So it's pretty sturdy. I've put tons of stuff on this when I'm sitting here at the back of the car. So you can put your cups on it, you put coffee on it, you can put food on it. You want to be careful, you don't want to spill anything on it, but it's absolutely amazing. The next thing is you can take it out. So you take this thing out and you put it aside, and you then have an absolutely epic amount of space just in this boot. And you might think, well, that's pretty decent, but it's not really as big as you expect. Well, here's the real party trick. You can then fold these down and you get an absolutely mammoth amount of space in here. This is now enormous. I've had doors in here, I mean full internal doors. The distance you can push stuff down in there and the space that comes up in here is just amazing. In fact, I've even read of one Kia Stinger owner who managed, and I joke you not, to put a motorbike in the back of this. Honestly, when this thing is all set up, you have effectively a state or station wagon size space. It's incredible. Now, the taillights on this version are phenomenal. These are the first generation of this car lights, and yes, they do look very similar to supercars, should we say, that are on the market. I'm sure that's not a coincidence in what Kia was thinking, but here's the thing. They look awesome. They are fantastic, and they're only available on the early models. The later models of the Stinger got rid of this. They changed it to a kind of more modern design. I don't like it as much. It's very similar. There are small differences that add up to make it look quite different, but for the most part, I think these were the better taillights, and they just look awesome. Another really cool feature of this car, which is actually really hard to show you, I will do my best, but this thing has a head-up display, and it's pretty good. It works really well. It's got all sorts of adjustments on it, and it is just brilliant to have all that information on the screen. In fact, I barely use this dash. I use pretty much everything off the windscreen. Now, performance-wise, this is a quick car. It's a very quick car, but it's not a supercar. You cannot expect this thing to compete with Ferraris or Lambos or any of that sort of thing. What it is, this is a GT car. It is a four-door GT car. It is phenomenal for road trips and going about your daily driving business. It is just a wonderful, wonderful car for that sort of thing. It's also very quick. To be honest, for the street, this is really all you need. For that kind of work, you will have epic amounts of fun in this. Now, to give you a comparison, is it as fast as an M5? No, this car is not going to compete with an M5 in performance. There's no way this car will take that on. But it will give you sort of 95% of that performance, whilst giving you all the luxury options that an M5 often didn't have. You see, M5s, everything was an option with BMW. You had to pick and choose everything. This car, it just gave you everything straight out of the door. If you wanted those options, Kia didn't even ask. They just put them on the car. So whilst this car is not a performance competitor to the M5, it certainly is a good alternative to the car for GT stuff. This car is an epic GT cruiser, and you would have no problems enjoying yourself in this every bit as much as you would an M5. The difference is, well, if you're an extremely aggressive driver and you want to go to the track, yeah, an M5 is going to be a superior car. Tires are an interesting thing on the Stinger. Now, I've actually changed the tires on this car. This car is running Michelin's all round, but it's not running Cup Sports. Indeed, we had them on this car, but the simple reality is here in the United Kingdom, with all the weather that we have and the nature of our roads, what we just found was that most of that pilot range, all the Cup stuff, they were horrible on these roads. In fact, I even had the same problem with the Toyota Supra, which had on it a variety of tires here in the UK. The decision to change to cross-climate tires in this car was based on the fact that, well, the pilots got us stuck. Put on all-weather tires on both of them. These things have been phenomenal. You can take them anywhere all year round, because that's the other thing. This is an all-round, all-year car. We drive this all the time, and we can't have tires which, well, can't get us up a goddamn hill. These are fantastic. Now, the gearbox, whilst it's not a true manual gearbox, you do get the option of flappy pedals on this, and they work pretty damn well. I really like shifting through the gears on this, and in fact, Kia even recommends from time to time that you go into manual mode and you use it at a higher RPM, and that's to clear out the GPF filter on the car. Like a lot of modern petrol cars these days, they're now fitted what's called a GPF. So those of you familiar with DPFs, well, petrol cars now have them too. They've had them for a while. They're called GPF, gasoline particulate filters, and these things essentially do the same job, but in a gasoline exhaust system. So this car has at least one GPF in it, and just like diesel ones, if you don't use the car appropriately from time to time, well, they get clogged up. So the answer, drive the car more, drive it a bit harder and for longer. For a factory system, the sound system in here is really, really good. It's ultra high quality. There is approximately 12, maybe as many as 15 speakers. I would have to double check that to be sure, but there's a lot. It's an insane amount, and it works really well, including 2 big subs under each seat. They're fantastic. These stripes also need a little bit of maintenance on them right now. They've been on a little bit now, and well, they're not looking too good. One of the biggest problems is these didn't get heat stressed when they went on. They went on in a big hurry for a show because we wanted the car to stand out at the show, and just being solid white, we didn't think it was going to do it. So we put these on the night before, and we didn't have a heat gun, and we didn't stress it. And what it means is there's been some, a little bit of crinkling has formed around particularly this vent here, and we really need to work on that. So this stripe's probably going to have to come off. We might reapply it. We might do it in a completely different fashion. I think these really got it bang on. These look great. What we'll likely do is pull them off, put them back on again, only we'll go over the entire car. And also up here, my plan is to wrap this in gloss black and even fill in this little part here. Just give it that full all over black look. So there's a bit to do to this car. You're going to see us go through the entire process of doing that to get this thing just looking amazing. And then we'll probably think about how to move it on, because it will be at its best when we do that. And when it's at its best is when we'll get the most value for it. Another item that I've got to do on this car is down here. It did come with these PPF panel pieces, if you like. They're awful, they're horrible, and they cover down some of the worst spots where the car's going to get hit. They do a great job, they really do, but after a period of time, they just look shocking. They've gone. They are now starting to yellow. They've got dirt and crap all over them, and I can't really clean them better than what they are. So I'm going to have to order some new ones from Kia, or just buy some online PPF and cut it out to fit that area. It is expensive through Kia. These parts aren't cheap, which makes no sense because it's a Kia. Cost-wise for this car, you'd be staggered. Most of it is quite cheap. It really isn't expensive. This is not an expensive car. There are bits and pieces here, there, where it suddenly goes from being quite cheap to suddenly ludicrously expensive. A standard service on this car is about £140. That's it. Now, I know you're thinking that's probably expensive, but if you compare it to many other cars, that's very cheap. There are many cars you can buy which have much more expensive services. So this car does quite well. The problem is, it's not every service. When you get to a major service, it goes to £550. And then there's the one-off big service in this car, which is well over £1,000. So it jumps around all over the place. You can buy various pieces of trim and touch-up paint and all little stuff like that quite cheaply. It's not expensive. But then all of a sudden you need brakes, and it goes astronomically priced. These are almost the same price as carbon ceramics on some supercars. One very good thing about this car is updates. It's really good for updates. Updating this car is simple. It's dead easy. And those updates aren't just for the sat-nav. They're for everything. The car gets all sorts of updates, and you do it yourself, and there's no charges in it. If I had to do this with Mercedes, that was £300. This car has 4 outstanding pieces of work. Yes, 4 things that have got to happen to this car at the moment. Now, the first is the disc brakes. The entire car needs new discs or rotors and pads to match all around. Now, we've got the fronts there. I've still got to buy the backs. I know where to get them. I just haven't done it yet. Been a bit lazy on that, so we need to get that sorted. The next thing with this car is there's a recall on it at the moment, and the recall is a pretty silly, stupid one. Basically, the recall is over one of the turbo pipes. This car's going back in for its recall work in about a month, and we're going to get all new turbo pipes hooked in here. Now, I can actually do that work myself if I needed to, and I've seen the videos of other people doing it. It's not hard, and yet Kia is trying to tell me it's a 6-hour job, which is just nuts. A bit of work that's got to go on with this car is a service. It is due for one. Now, this is again a contentious point because the UK said this car needs 2 services a year, whilst most of the rest of the world says, no, it only needs 1. Now, Kia UK tied that into their warranty. You want to keep warranty, you got to get it serviced. So a car with full service history looks good. Unfortunately, if you miss one, well, it becomes a bit of a problem, and I don't want to miss one. So given that we may dispose of this car soon, it may get sold, which we'll talk about later on. Given that may happen, it might be worth just letting Kia do its last and final service on it and give it a full service history. The final problem we've got on this car at the moment is a very, very frustrating and annoying one. And it's in the boot. You see, if I come back here, what's hopefully going to happen is that the car will figure out I'm standing behind it and it'll open up the boot. There's no problem, there's no issues with that. The problem is this strut here. You see, these are well-known failure points in this car. Not much else goes wrong at all, but these struts, yeah, they are known to fail, and this one started going on its way out. What happens is you try to put the down, and there's broken clips in here which force it to kind of lock up, and well, it goes back up and you can't get the boot down. The only way to fix it is to go into manual mode and physically push it up and down yourself, which you really shouldn't do because it's hard as hell and it puts extra load on the struts. The fix for this is actually really easy. You just change these struts over. The one on the other side, we just swap it out. I think I've got to buy them in pairs and I can do it. You're probably thinking, well, what's the big deal? Well, here's the thing. This car's still under warranty. It's still got a month, yes, a month. This car is 6 years, 11 months into its warranty. It has about 4 weeks left for its warranty end, and then I will not be able to make any warranty claims on it. But these are covered under it. These are still, to this day, covered under it. So I know what you're thinking now is just drive down to Kia, show them the problem, get it replaced. What's the big deal? The problem is I've turned up at Kia twice now, 2 times, and said to them, hey, this is broken, it's not working. And guess what happens? They go out and test it, and the thing works. For whatever reason, this car is loving to make me look like a complete idiot every time I turn up to Kia saying, my tailgate is broken, these struts aren't working and I need them fixed. And they test it and the damn thing works. But here, every time I do it, it doesn't work. It'll go a variety of distances down and then come all the way back up because it's up. Now, there are some other plans for this car. Yes, we're not just going to leave it like this. If we are going to move it on, we need to give it some value add stuff. Make it just look a little bit better. One of the grievances I've always had with the Kia Stinger is that it looks a bit jacked up. You could lower it, but then you'd have all sorts of issues. The better way, the easier way, and the really cool way to do it is we're going to fit some effects on it. Now, at the front, we're planning on a front lip spoiler that's going to go under the front here. This will give it that much lower look, but the car underneath will still be the same height. Yes, we could scrape on things, but it'll just be the front that scrapes and any side skirts that we put on because we're planning on doing the same there. And we'll probably do the same at the back here with an extra touch to the diffuser. These rear reflector lights at the back of the car, they're a very contentious item. I don't mind them, but at the same time, I'd be interested to see what it looks like without them. And you can do that option. You see, these things are literally just kind of plug-in pieces. They screw in from the back and you can just pull them out and you can just wrap them. And I might just try that because it's such a simple thing to do. Another little thing we're thinking about is this trim piece along here. These get beaten up to hell. They really go out fast. They can be cleaned, no matter what you see or read. You can actually clean all these things up and make them look pristine and perfect. I have heard of people having them replaced under warranty, but you know, I think they'd look good in another color and you'll have to wait and see if I decide to do that. Now, in terms of performance tuning, I'm not planning on doing anything to this car. I personally don't think it needs it for what it is. This is a big high performance cruiser. It's not really a sports car. This is not in that kind of high performance style thing. You're never ever going to compete with high-end sports cars in this car. It's not built for that. The tuning potential on these things, it's utterly enormous. And seriously, almost rivals that damn thing. Now, that thing has a more robust engine. The 2JZ is just bulletproof. We know that. This engine, well, it's still kind of in its early days. We don't know how tough they are, but there are people, lots of people, especially in America, that are pushing 800-900 horsepower out of these things, and they're only sort of 7 years into their life. So these things really have enormous potential. No, I'm quite happy with the power level that's on it. Next owner can work it out. The performance for what this thing needs to do is just fantastic. For road trips and street work and all the standard stuff you want to do in your day-to-day driving activities, this thing is awesome. We also have puddle lighting around this car. So there's puddle lighting under each of the mirrors. There's puddle lighting under each of the door handles. And when you open up this car was fitted the very genuine Kia grade puddle lighting in the footwell, and it's bright red. What all this means is that I have a Kia Stinger here that's a very rare example of a very rare car in the UK already. You do not see many of these things. To find one in white with a red interior is very difficult. And it's also the GTS version. So this is a win-win-win. You will not see many Kia Stingers in this configuration. It is an outstanding example. Now, this car does have some mileage on it. We've put nearly 75,000 miles on this car because, well, we like to drive the thing. It has been a fantastic road trip car, and I would encourage anyone who's got one to take it out and drive it. It is absolutely phenomenal for that kind of work. There's a few downsides with this car, so let me go through just a few of what some of those are for me. On the passenger door, for some bizarre reason, there's no memory functions, as in that seat is just whatever it is at the time. You have to manually readjust it each time. Now, it is fully electric, but why not just use exactly the same as what was on the driver's side where we have memories? And on that note, why have we only got two? The other annoying thing about these seats is that you can't use these memory buttons when the car's outside of park. You have to be in park. If you put it in a drive, reverse, or anything, these buttons become useless and you get a warning on the dash saying, cannot use them, shift to park. Why? The side mirrors have an automatic folding function, but you wouldn't know it. There's no indicators or anything on this switch panel to tell you how to do that. In fact, if you don't ask or you don't read through the huge guidebook, you wouldn't have a clue. That's actually what it's trying to tell you, but it's not clear. So a lot of people I've met with Stingers don't have a clue how to set these to auto. They just manually turn them on and off, and you don't have to do that. There is a brightness function under the dash here, change just how bright the dash is. And it's not bad, it works pretty well, but it has zero effect, no effect whatsoever on this screen. The result is you get into the car at night and you want to dim down the lights a bit. It's very easy. You push the button and all of this dash in here goes dark. It's brilliant. It works well. But this thing still lights up like a goddamn Christmas tree. And the only way to change the brightness on this is in that. So I've got to mess around with a whole ton of settings just to get this to change brightness levels. Now, I know what you're thinking. There's an auto function, but the auto functions are for different things. Like if I'm in the reverse camera, which is the 360 camera, its brightness is separate to other function brightness. I've got to mess around all over the place to make sure this thing isn't blinding me at night. There's only 2 USBs in this car. It's pathetic. There's only 2. Even in 2018, that was unacceptably low. We needed more than 2. We've got 1 here and I've got 1 in the back down there. And these just aren't enough. And making things worse, this one here at the front, this is for the Android Auto, because in 2018, this car didn't come with wireless Android Auto or wireless Apple CarPlay. So you had to plug your phone in there, which meant that was immediately taken up. And you couldn't use the wireless charging point because you've already plugged in. It was kind of pointless. Another little quirk of this car that took a long time for people to figure out was why, when you put your phone into the wireless charging point at the front, would it get exceedingly hot? Like it would bake it in there. There were people seriously worried about damage to their phones, and I experienced this too. The solution, well, it's really, really frustrating. The solution is actually in the back of the car here at the climate control point for the rear passengers. You might be wondering why? What's that got to do with it? Well, it turns out that there's ducting that runs from the front out there all the way under here. And if you've got this set to hot, then it brings hot air straight in under that wireless charging point. And you guessed it, it basically cooks that whole area there. Now, it's perfectly okay for the car components. They can handle that. But your phone, it really shouldn't be in that. So you've got to have this set to cold here, or when you put your phone in the wireless charger up there, it'll bake. Another annoying thing about this car is this, the seatbelt. See, one of the problems I have is when I take this seatbelt off, I often find it gets caught up in my clothing. It comes out with me. So if you can imagine, it's now caught up in my clothing, and as I would step out, it comes out with me a little bit, and it would leave it hanging out along here. And guess what that does? It means I miss it, I don't see it, and eventually I shut the door with the metal piece of the seatbelt sitting out here, and well, and it's caused a few dents and a few dings in here. And I really don't know how to solve that. I mean, I could probably do something about the tiny little dents, but it's infuriatingly annoying. Every time I do it, I want to hit myself for not getting out properly again. You got to check that you haven't caught up your seatbelt every time you get out of this thing, and it's on every single door. Another really big problem with this car, and it's probably one of the most genuinely annoying ones. All the other problems they're kind of little things. You can live with them, that's not a problem. The one you cannot get around is its size. There is almost an optical illusion going on. It's very deceptive. You would look at this car and think, it's not that big, it's not that bad, but it is. It's a lot bigger when you actually look at it. In fact, when you take the measurements of this car, it's the same size as a Mercedes S-Class. Well, not quite, certainly not the long wheelbase, but this is almost the same size. So trying to push this thing around, it's painful. And the turning circle, well, it's awful. Now, the 360 camera in this car makes up for its size and its poor turning circle brilliantly. This thing is fantastic. But of course, there were versions without it, and I do wonder how hard this car would be to drive around without the 360 camera. It's almost essential when, like all modern cars, the Stinger has an electronic parking brake. And it's, well, it's rubbish. This has actually been one of the few things in this car I really genuinely don't like. And it's not the fact that it's electronic, it's got a bit of a mind of its own. There is an electronic parking brake control unit. Yes, there is actually an electronic controller for this, and it needs to be updated. And that's part of the updates when you take this car in for servicing. It's really frustrating because very often I will find I have to put the handbrake on myself when it should be coming on. It's as though the car has simply forgotten to pull this switch or make the handbrake engage. But it's so frustrating in a car that has so much automation that this really isn't part of that, and you have to be manually involved in it. I get that there is requirements and you don't want the parking brake coming on at the wrong times, but other cars have got this correct, and they really never got the parking brake quite right in this car. The glove box is air conditioned, and it is properly cold in there when you want it to be. It would be good for cans of drink and so on. The only problem is it's quite small. Another annoying thing about this car is that the key fob isn't associated with any memory settings for this car. It's infuriating, and the memory settings don't go far enough. The door memory buttons will fully remember the steering wheel and the seats, no problem there at all, but it doesn't do anything else, which is a bit strange because it should tie into the heated steering wheel. It should tie into the heated seats and the ventilated seats. It should tie into the automated lights. There is all sorts of things that it should be tying into, and it doesn't. Rear view in this car is pretty average. It's not bad. Visibility all around in this whole car, well, I actually think it's pretty good. Now, I know a lot of people who look at that and think, you're not even going to get a letter through that thing. It's smaller than a post box. Well, actually, when you're in the driver's seat, you've got pretty good rear vision. The headrests in this car, they're not automated. They're fully manual. Now, nothing wrong with that. They work very well. And you've even got 3 in the back here for the entire back row. The only problem is they're all manual. And what I don't understand is why Kia went to such lengths to make such an automated, cool driver's seat, and they just left this as, well, a manual plug-in and the same on the back. Why not go that one extra step and just make these part of the electric seat? Kind of crazy that they just didn't bother with it. This car, like pretty much any modern car, has auto-sensing, completely automated window wipers. So you don't need to do anything and they will come on, but you need to set them on. If you don't have them set to auto, well, they'll never come on. Now, fortunately, in this car, they can be set to auto and just left that way. You don't need to do anything else. They're not like the lights where if you don't turn them to auto, every time you get in, the lights will never be auto. The wipers don't have that problem. The only problem with the wipers is I find they can be a little finicky. Frankly, they're not that smart at times, and you do end up having to play with the adjustments to get it right. Another frustrating problem is if you're driving around with the sunroof open like this, it's awesome, it's great. I can understand why Kia did it, and that's this buffer piece at the front. This is designed so that you don't get huge amounts of wind echoing and billowing into the cabinet. It's a really good thing. It works very well, but I'll be honest, God damn is it ugly. I hate this thing. It just pops up. It looks hideous. It's shocking, and you have to have it. You can't change it. You can't have that thing go down on its own and just leave the sunroof open. No, the sunroof opens and this big panel opens up with it. You're just stuck with it. It is essential though, like I said, so it's catch-22. I get it, I like it, but I just hate the way it looks. Now, the exhaust is another thing I need to think about on this car. It's a funny exhaust on this. Honestly, the sound that comes out of this car is very peculiar. And every Stinger I've heard is the same. It's a very, I don't know how to describe it, almost watery, waterfall type sound that comes out of these cars. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just factory awful. So if I'm going to sell this car, maybe I should try and find a way to make it sound a little bit better. It's not a bad sound, it's just a weird sound. I don't like it. I think it could sound much better. So exhaust is also another choice. Now, there's tons of it available. I can literally buy one and put it on myself. The only question is, what do I go for and just how loud do I make this thing? Do I make it so loud nobody wants to buy it, or do I just make it nice rumble where people are just going to like it and still want it, along with all those other little cosmetic changes that we're making? What do you think? What would you do with the exhaust? Another big grievance with the sound in this car is the simple fact that the speakers play noise. Yes, you heard correctly. There is artificial noise in this car, and it's infuriating and annoying. Now, there's a lot of debate over it. What we're fairly sure of is that there is a combination of microphones and ducts that actually pipe the sound in here, so that in here it does sound good. But the only catch is you have to remember to turn it on. Yes, that's not a word of a lie. You have to remember to turn it on because it turns itself off all the time. What do I mean? Well, this is what I mean. This is literally the setting. It is currently on normal, which it resets itself to all the time. Why it doesn't just stay on enhanced, I don't know, but it doesn't. You get in this car and you think the sound is not good enough. Well, it's probably because it's not been turned on. One annoying thing about this car, and it's been noted by some pretty major people in the auto industry, is this car can be very, very beep happy. It can be really annoying. The damn thing loves to warn you about everything. You've left your keys in it, it's going to beep. You left the door open, it's going to beep. You do pretty much anything it doesn't like and it will beep itself away at you for ages, and it's so frustrating because you just want to tell it to shut up half the time. It will not shut up at times. It does not matter what you do. This car just loves to beep. It's like it's built for beeping. And there's more than one. You will get beep, beep, and you get beeps on top of the beeps. Sometimes I think there's beeps to warn about the beeping. However, after a while, you will learn the nuances of this car. Once you've got used to it, you can stop it from beeping and you will never have to worry about it. And it will even wear off on you. And that's a bit of a danger because the beeps are there for a reason. Sometimes they're really useful. So for example, if you've forgotten to close the sunroof, if the car's constantly beeping all the time, you do get a little complacent and you just kind of ignore it. And that has happened to me, leaving the sunroof open once or twice as a result of just ignoring the beeps. For the most part though, it's not an issue. You learn to live with it. But yeah, it's a real quirk of this car. Another really, really annoying thing, and I just wish Kia would get their act together with some of this stuff, is they made a change to the driver's settings. See, you've got smart mode, you've got eco mode, you've got comfort mode, you've got sport mode, and sport plus. I won't talk about the UK version because we were screwed over on that, but those are the 5 choices you've got. Now, when you change them on the screen, it cycles through the choices, and well, they really screwed this up. This is the driver mode change option screen, you can have it as a full detailed alert where the whole thing comes up. You can change it to a simple alert or off. Originally, this gave us a very highly detailed picture of a Stinger when you made the change. It was a cutaway, beautiful, excellent looking picture of a Stinger showing changing between the modes. When we did the last update, Kia did this. Look at this crap. That's what we got to replace a cutaway Stinger. Another annoying little thing about this car is that, again, part of that kind of babysitter nanny program, you can't do a lot of things unless you're in a state to do them. What I mean is, if you go in a drive, almost half of the options you want on here shut down, and it tells you go into park to do it. It's so frustrating when all you want to do is make one small little change to the settings, and the damn thing says, oh no, you got to stop and pull over to do that. It's silly and it's stupid, but it is what it is. One minor little thing I would have liked to see from Kia was to have these color-coded. Okay, it's a very, very subjective, small little point, but having seatbelts that match the seats, that would have been very cool. One little negative of the head-up display is that for some reason, it does not include your phone satellite navigation directions in it. And that's just bad. You see, it does use the Kia one. So if I set a navigation in here to say to go to London, well, this thing picks it up like that. And I've got the full directions in my dash, which I don't use because it's all on the head-up display. And it's not just sort of blocky stuff. It's really high quality digital stuff. It will tell me the turns, the distance, the times, everything. It's really, really good. But again, it doesn't do it for your phone navigation, which doesn't make sense. And the reason why it doesn't make sense is because, well, coming from an IT background, I've got a little extra knowledge inside some of these systems. And I can tell you now, Google and Apple both provide all the necessary information required to make this head-up display actually work with their systems. They give you everything you need. All Kia had to do was go to either Google or Apple and say, how do we do this? Or even better, just look it up for reference. It's all on the Google developer stuff. You could literally figure it out. So why didn't Kia do it? Instead, the only satellite navigation systems in the head-up display are from the Kia system. And it's okay, but it's nowhere near as good as Google Maps. Another annoying little thing about this car, does not have inbuilt voice recognition. It requires your phone in order to supply that. So you do have a voice recognition button on the steering wheel. But if your phone isn't connected via Apple CarPlay or Android Auto or some other Bluetooth mechanism that this requires, you just will not get voice recognition. It just does not happen. Another irritating thing is its fuel efficiency. It's not bad, it's not great, but it's very confusing. Let me try and explain. See, it's a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde car with this because if I want to get really, really good fuel efficiency out of it, well, I can. I've got to drive like a nanny, obviously. I've got to be very cautious and very careful, and I can get this thing up to, in extraordinary cases, and I mean really extraordinary cases, I've had this thing at nearly 42 miles to the gallon once. Now, that was unachievable again. I don't think I could ever replicate it. It was very extraordinary circumstances that allowed me to get that. But that's how good it can be. For a car that weighs nearly 1,900 kilos and has nearly 400 horsepower, that's very, very good. But there is a catch. You see, to get it, you've got to be super careful. And there's one thing on this car which kills fuel efficiency. Idling. It's bizarre. If I was to sit in this driveway for a full minute and not drive the car, my fuel efficiency in a local trip is absolutely destroyed. If I don't idle, if I just take off, go to the point and come back, well, my fuel efficiency is amazingly better. Now, it could just simply be the trip computer that's just playing funny games and does not want to work properly, but I don't think so. At idle, I just think this engine is terribly inefficient and it uses a lot of petrol to just sit around, which is why I'm glad this has got a start-stop function. Okay, and with all that said, I think it's time I wrapped up here. In the next episode, you're going to see me changing the brakes on this thing and some of the other service work and all the stuff that goes on to keep this thing running. For now, we've been through the car. You've got a good idea what it is. hopefully I've brought some new information to you and I've given you an idea of what these cars are like. If you have liked any part of this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. And I will see you in the next video. Simon out.